He was the greatest swordsman of his generation. But on the day he faced the most ruthless demonic cult in the martial world, he lost everything. His disciples were slaughtered. And even after cutting off the enemy's head, he realized that monster still could not die. In the end, the Sword Emperor fell with nothing but regret, wishing for only one thing: to have been strong enough to protect them all. But when he opened his eyes again, he wasn't dead. He had awakened inside the body of a weak, humiliated boy with destroyed meridians. But no one in that village knew the truth. Inside that useless body, the Sword Emperor had just returned. On a desolate battlefield, fallen warriors are scattered across the ground under a stormy sky, with lightning piercing the darkness. The camera focuses on a battle-worn sword resting on an enemy who took a decisive strike from its wielder. Sitting on an improvised throne, the leader of the Sun and Moon cult smiles in a sinister way with a dark aura around him. With a scary smile, he comments on the Sword Emperor of the Southern Heaven Palace, finding the whole situation amusing. On the other side, we see a long-haired warrior completely battered, breathing with great difficulty after the long fight. This man is Nam Young Shin, the Lord of the Southern Heaven Palace, who somehow managed to make it there even in his state. Gritting his teeth with anger, the hero wonders how the villain can find this whole situation funny. The scene shifts to the past, when one of his men warned him that the dark cult had arrived in the Anhui province. At that moment, the young master said that a hero's sword is sharp because it carries responsibility and makes no compromises. He then asked his followers if what they held was the sword of a hero or the fear of an ordinary man. In response, all the disciples of the Southern Heaven Palace stated that there were no cowards among them and that they would follow him. Back in the present, the main character looks at his fallen allies and says that this was exactly what he taught them to do. Gripping his sword tighter, the young man confirms that his companions did exactly what they were taught. With a determined and fierce look, Nam Young Shin declares that it is now his turn to step up and honor them. Shouting with all his might, the warrior states that his palace disciples did not back down but marched forward instead. He goes on to say that all of them stepped up to fulfill their responsibility to the path of martial arts. With that, the hero steps firmly on the marked ground, getting ready for the final clash against his enemy. Facing the hero, the cult leader shows off his power and talks about those who proved their unwavering justice and honor. But the warrior interrupts him, asking how a scumbag like him dares to use the word musing for this devastation. The villain's only answer is an even wider and more unsettling smile, mocking his opponent's anger. The cult leader says his enemy no longer even has the strength to hold his sword properly and that his hand is already shaking. Ignoring the taunt, Nam Young Shin gathers his last bit of energy to raise his great sword one more time. Surrounded by his dark aura, the villain provokes him, asking if he can really handle the consequences of his actions. The hero fires back, saying that the sword is a swordsman's hand and there is nothing he cannot endure. Then a third eye opens on the villain's forehead as he asks if the sky will remain the same forever. Without another word, the main character charges at top speed toward the cult leader for the final attack. His sword's blade emits an intense glow and launches a powerful energy slash that travels straight toward the enemy. The impact of the attack is so fast that the villain's image completely blurs as he takes a direct hit. After the dust settles, the cult leader's body is seen kneeling on the ground as he is completely taken down. With his face still showing the fury of battle, the hero watches the outcome of his final and decisive strike. But a voice echoes, saying that the Black Sun and the Red Moon will always desire each other, leaving the hero in shock. To the warrior's amazement, the villain's form begins to pull back together toward him amidst a dark aura. The enemy's face reconstructs itself, and he states that the two can never be separated, revealing his regeneration power. Then a gigantic purple energy explosion consumes the entire battlefield in a fraction of a second. The explosion's light is so strong it completely blinds the view, covering everything in a dazzling and powerful flash. After everything calms down, the scene completely shifts to a quiet and peaceful landscape with a large tree. Back in his body, the main character is on his knees, driving his sword into the ground to try and support himself. Crying bitterly, the young man realizes that the fight's outcome was mutual destruction for both sides. All around him, the forms of his companions begin to fade into a black smoke that rises to the heavens. With the last of his strength, the warrior tries to stand up, but his legs tremble and he can barely stay on his feet. Unable to hold himself up, the swordsman falls to his knees once again in the middle of the devastated battlefield. The hero says his title as Sword Emperor is meaningless since he could not protect a single disciple. With immense pain in his chest, he apologizes to all his followers who sacrificed everything. In this moment of despair, the young man looks up and sees a bright light emerging through the darkness. The light gets stronger and stronger, and the main character stares at it as his consciousness begins to fade. In his thoughts, he remembers the sky he and his disciples swore to protect, which was justice itself. The young man thinks about how blue and high the sky is, but wonders how he could dare to reach it after failing. Exhaustion finally hits him, and the hero starts coughing heavily, feeling his energy leave him. His final thoughts are filled with pure regret, wondering if things would have been different if he were stronger. With his head bowed, he wonders if the last thing left on his blade will be his great regret. Suddenly, a voice calls him by an unknown name, and the young man wakes up startled in a different place. Before he can grasp the situation, a man strikes him in the face with a kick while calling him a scumbag. Lying on the ground, the young man looks up, completely confused about what is happening and where he might be. The bearded man yells at him, calling him a lazy slug, and asks if he was still sleeping. The young man's eyes widen, not understanding anything, because this whole situation made zero sense to him. With no time to think, the man strikes him again with a punch, making the boy groan in pain. The attacker says he gave a name and a way of life to an orphan with broken meridians, and that he should be grateful. The young man shields himself from the blows and thinks about what happened, as he is certain he had fallen in battle. But his memories of the fight against the cult leader are still vivid, and he knows he is Nam Young Shin. He remembers the enemy's face and wonders if his final will somehow make him defy the heavens. Before he can think any further, the attacker tries to land another kick, but boy blocks it and notices something strange about himself. Holding the man's foot firmly, the boy shows impressive strength, blocking the strike with no trouble at all. Completely confused by this, the bearded man's eyes widen, not understanding how his attack was stopped like that. The man freezes in shock, thinking about how the boy was crying in pain just one day ago. With a dark look and his eyes glowing red, the main character glares at his attacker while still holding his leg. Focusing on the young man's face, we notice an intense and sharp expression, proving he is no longer the same weak boy. Sweating cold and swallowing hard, the coward feels deep terror as he faces his target's intimidating aura. Trembling with fear, the bearded man loses his balance and falls to the dirt floor, dropping the wooden stick he was holding. Slowly, the reincarnated swordsman approaches the fallen man, his face covered in shadows in a very scary way. Giving him no time to react, the young man snatches the piece of wood from the enemy's hands in a very swift move. With a look of pure anger, the warrior judges the actions of this guy who called himself a martial arts master. The hero then says that hurting a defenseless kid is a crime, and that trash like him is not worthy of holding a sword. Thinking back on the past, the man remembers other people mocking him and telling him to get lost for being an easy target. Anger consumes the attacker, who grumbles about the boy having broken meridians and being just a pathetic weakling. Grinding his teeth hard, the villain shows all his wild fury, growling with anger over the humiliation. Completely out of control, the coward shouts the boy's name, asking if his physical issues drove him crazy. Without thinking twice, the attacker lunges, grabbing the boy by his clothes while trying to take the stick back. But using the technique from his past life, the warrior quickly draws the wooden weapon, cutting through the air around him. In the blink of an eye, the hero delivers a strike so powerful that it completely disarms the man, sending a heavy shockwave all around. Witnessing that intense scene, the surrounding villagers drop their jaws, unable to believe what just happened. Another villager cries out in shock, watching the absurd strength coming from that boy who had always been mistreated by everyone. Roaring in pain, the bearded man falls to his knees, holding his battered arm as the heavy impact marks the dirt ground. Ignoring the man's suffering, the young swordsman keeps a cold expression and simply orders the scumbag to lift his head. Completely defeated and hunched over on the ground, the coward can barely move from the painful impact of the attack he took. Whimpering nonstop, the attacker begs for mercy upon realizing the monster in disguise he had injured. In that instant, the aura of the former Sword Emperor projects behind the boy's body, showing his true essence. Facing the overwhelming presence, the attacker trembles even more, realizing the person in front of him is not the weak boy. The boy's fearful expression has completely vanished, giving way to an entirely different person who is far too dangerous to deal with. Right after, the image fades to black, transitioning to a large fortified village in the middle of distant mountains. Changing scenery, we see a group of masked men wearing white outfits standing under a cloudy, gloomy sky. The leader, a sinister man with long dark hair, warns that their priority is to capture the one with the broken meridians. With red eyes glowing in the dark, the villain orders his subordinates to eliminate anyone who gets in their way. Hearing the cruel command, the henchman's voices echo, confirming the orders while the macabre figure walks through the shadows. Back at the village, the young swordsman continues to stare at the bearded man who is crying on his knees, holding his hurt arm. Showing extreme coldness, the hero's face takes on a scary look, with one of his eyes shining in a very bright tone. Overcome with despair, the attacker sheds many tears, deeply believing that his end had arrived at that very moment. Trembling with fear, the bearded man presses his head to the dirt, calling the boy Momyang and begging for humble forgiveness. Desperate to save himself, the attacker reaches his shaky hand inside his rustic clothes, looking for a very valuable item. Humbly, he places a bag of money on the ground, claiming it is all he has, and begs the warrior to accept it as an apology. Slowly, the boy's imposing figure blocks the sunlight, keeping a ruthless and dark look on the pathetic man. Coldly, the main character asks if that disgusting guy named Deoxum really thought he would fool him so easily. At that moment, the boy mentions that he spent the last 5 years starving and enduring harsh beatings out of pure hatred. Furthermore, the warrior reveals that he was never paid for his work and was even trampled on when he got sick. Watching everything from afar, a mysterious person wearing dark clothes and a hat hides among the frightened villagers. Intrigued, the individual focuses entirely on the boy, noticing something different and fascinating about the swordsman's attitude. Meanwhile, the young man warns the coward that his appearance might have changed, but his body still remembered all the pain he suffered. Full of resentment, the hero states that a fake apology holds zero value, even if it comes with coins. The bearded man quickly breaks into a cold sweat, keeping his face pressed to the dirt upon hearing that his fakeness will not be tolerated. Showing no pity, the young man raises his wooden weapon and strikes the enemy's back in a brutal and very fast way. Instantly, the attacker's body collapses on the ground, suffering a heavy blow that marks the earth, confirming his downfall. Looking with disgust, the warrior says that disrespecting martial arts takes away a person's right to ever hold a sword. Startled by that phrase, the hidden figure in the crowd widens her dark eyes, showing very deep shock. Internally, the mysterious being notes that this was an ancient motto of her society and wonders how the boy knew about it. Shortly after, the swordsman turns his back, walking away very calmly to plan his future decisions. Silently, the boy gazes at the beautiful blue sky filled with white clouds, feeling the gentle breeze hit his calm face. Then, he begins to reflect on the major problem of not having any important allies or good contacts in this new world. Suddenly, a piercing scream of agony shatters the silence, making the hero turn his head, highly alert to the situation. In the distance, the young man spots a villager running desperately down a small slope, as if fleeing from a terrible monster. Crying in terror, with his face bathed in sweat, the guy screams for help, reaching out his right hand, begging to be saved. Tragically, the villager warns about demonic humans but ends up being struck in the back by a white-clad ninja before he can escape. Overcome with anger, the boy grinds his teeth, glaring at that terrible scene with pure fury in his eyes. In total panic, the villagers scream desperately, warning about the demonic humans and telling everyone to run away. Surrounded by a purple aura, the white-clad attacker shows a scary red gaze, proving he is part of an evil cult. Focusing on the enemy's clothes, we notice a very dark embroidery that blends a dark sun over a red moon. The young man quickly widens his eye, confirming that this bizarre emblem belongs to the demonic cult of the sun and moon. Moreover, the sinister energy leaking from those ninjas proves the wicked essence of that dark faction. Remembering the past, the hero reflects on his great sacrifice to destroy these monsters and cannot understand their return. Brutally, the masked villains take down the defenseless residents, demanding that the entire area be locked down immediately. Soon, the henchmen yell to search for someone with broken meridians, making the boy suspect that he is the target. Gripping his wooden sword's handle, the swordsman rejects the taking of innocent lives, noticing the same old cruelty. Faced with such an incident, the warrior decides it would be completely impossible to just stand by and watch the suffering. Facing that gang of ruthless monsters, the young man concludes that the world would be a much better place without their kind. Without backing down at all, the hero walks firmly toward the danger, while the other villagers flee desperately from there. Worried, a bald villager grabs the boy's arm, telling him to run away or he would end up losing his own life. Breaking the villager's grip, the boy maintains his firm posture, warning that wielding a weapon changes everything. Turning his face calmly, the main character explains that a true blade wielder must know when to draw. Completely amazed, the villagers watch the boy walk away, murmuring his name with great shock and respect in their voices. Heading straight into combat, the masked attackers jump at high speed, aiming to take the hero out all at once. Aware of his current weakness, the young man admits he has zero internal energy and is stuck in a very flawed physique. Even so, the warrior grips the wooden handle, blindly trusting that his martial arts techniques remain intact. Showing off his strength, the former emperor makes a glowing blade appear using just the old piece of wood. Watching the technique from afar, the mysterious dark-hatted figure stays hidden among the plants, analyzing the field. Confused by the boy's battle stance, the spy wonders how a completely untrained kid knew such an advanced pose. Focusing massive power, the swordsman closes his eyes and raises the weapon, releasing a huge, very blinding yellow aura. Shocked by that absurd focus, the hidden observer notes that the hero's high perception covered even his own vision. The young man opens his left eye, revealing a highly focused look, completely ready to strike back against the hard attacks. Surrounded on all sides, the master fighter detects 3 ninjas coming from the left and 4 others attacking from the right. Raising his wooden weapon above his head with both hands joined, the warrior prepares a highly powerful defensive strike. In a perfectly calculated move, the hero brings his blade down at high speed, neutralizing the ninja's frontal charge. Whispering quite coldly, the boy says the name of his heavenly strike right in the middle of that massive brawl. Pressing his right foot against the dirt with great firmness, the warrior creates a shockwave on the ground to gain momentum. Right after, a huge vertical slash of light drops on one of the ninjas, splitting the space with overwhelming energy. Taking a direct hit from the powerful attack, the enemy's body collapses in defeat on the ground, while the hero remains highly relentless. Furious over their allies' fall, the other cult members charge together, raising their glowing swords for the attack. With absurd agility, the young man blocks and dodges all enemy strikes, moving his own body like a blur. Furrowing his brow during the intense combat, the swordsman whispers the word, "Quirth," preparing the second phase of his technique. Then, a large and powerful horizontal slash sweeps through the group of attackers, sending them all flying away with extreme force. Trying to fight back at any cost, one of the ninjas jumps, delivering a swift strike that ends up blocked by the wooden weapon. Showing a flawless level of focus, the main character's eyes shine brightly as he executes another very fast move. Completing the combat stance, the master fighter says the word "human" to finish that fluid sequence of strikes. Giving no chance to defend, the boy pierces the center of the masked enemy's body, unleashing a white beam of high energy. Shooting a sharp glare to the side, the young warrior focuses on another target, ready to leave no fighter standing. Quickly, he breaks through another attacker's defenses, hearing the loud agonizing groan of the defeated guy falling right there. With his back completely bruised, the villain kneels in surrender before the imposing figure of the boy who won effortlessly. Hurt and panting, the dark cult member calls that kid a monster, realizing the massive gap in their skills. Hearing that insult, the main character simply keeps a cold face, showing a slight air of boredom with the whole situation. Exhausted by the damage, the ninja falls face first into the dust, being completely taken down by the young wielder of the heavenly blade. Around the warrior, we see all the enemies sprawled on the marked ground, proving the isolated boy's massive power. Hiding in the shadows, the dark-hatted woman drops her jaw when she notices the fighter used a basic-level technique. Extremely amazed, the mysterious spy concludes that this child housed an unmatched natural talent for combat. Suddenly, the young swordsman feels a strange presence and turns his face in confusion, trying to figure out where that feeling came from. Raising his head toward the wooden roof, he spots 5 more masked villains watching the village from high above. With a sharp look, the boy stares at these new opponents, reflecting on the frustrating presence of more targets. Confused by their companion's defeat, the newcomers figure that the villagers would not have the strength to cause such damage. Determined to finish off the intruders, the warrior tries to move forward, gripping his wooden weapon with great strength and conviction. However, the boy's left eye begins to twitch violently, accompanied by a groan of pure pain and deep suffering. Losing his balance entirely, the young man falls to his knees on the ground, driving the blade into the dirt to support his trembling body. Bathed in sweat, the hero grinds his teeth, remembering that this miserable physical shell still suffered from the broken meridians. Suffering a terrible crisis at the worst possible moment, he tries to endure the agony, questioning the reason for those symptoms. Taking advantage of the boy's extreme vulnerability, the hostile ninjas stare at the kneeling body, waiting for the chance to strike. Analyzing the boy closely, the masked henchman confirms he is the one to target with the broken meridians. Emitting a red glow in his eyes, the group leader orders them to capture the target completely unharmed. Obeying the cruel command, the white ninjas jump from the roof, heading straight toward the kneeling boy on the ground. Completely defenseless, the main character grinds his teeth, trying to bear the immense pain while holding his weapon tight. But surprisingly, intense blue lightning bolts cross the sky, hitting the enemies and stopping their strike. Reflecting the glow of that attack, the boy's eyes widen, noticing the energy of a strong blue lightning strike. Looking up, the warrior spots the mysterious dark-hatted woman standing on the roof holding a sword. Keeping an imposing pose, the swordswoman faces the enemies while energy bolts surround her entire body. Highly startled, the leader recognizes the figure as the Lady of the Dark Clouds and suspects their plan has been discovered. Wasting no time, the newcomer attacks fiercely, slamming her sword's handle into a ninja's face. Descending swiftly into the courtyard, the warrior lands in front of the group of attackers, maintaining her lethal stance. Sensing extreme danger, the commander in black orders his subordinates to buy time by focusing on the main mission. Immediately, the white-clad warriors charge forward with their blades, trying to surround the mysterious dark-hatted lady. Keeping her cool, the woman draws her weapon, releasing a bluish light beam that lights up the entire area. Focusing intensely on the fight, the warrior's eyes shine with the same color as the lightning, giving off great power. Gliding like a swift lightning bolt, the lady dashes through the enemy group, slicing through each of them with extreme ease. Right after, she lands gracefully on the house's roof tiles, completing her move with precision. Using her footwear to gain strong momentum, the swordswoman creates a gust of wind, crushing the tiles beneath her agile feet. Scared by the force of that movement, the attacker's boss widens his dark eyes, realizing he's at a disadvantage. Behind the woman, the subordinates fall completely defeated to the ground after taking heavy hits from the blue energy. Watching the display of power, the long-haired boy accurately identifies the infinite steps technique. Observing the warrior's leap, the young man notes that this footwork style belonged to the Southern Heaven Palace. However, a macabre shadow appears behind the boy's back, revealing the large masked man about to attack. Reaching out his right hand, the villainous leader warns in a very dark tone that he would take the boy prisoner right then. Trembling hard because of the severe physical crisis, the young man tries to lift his wooden weapon to protect himself quickly. Before the kidnapping can happen, the hatted heroine drops from the sky like a true meteor covered in lightning. In the blink of an eye, the bluish blade heavily strikes the enemy boss's arm, protecting the boy from his touch. Overcome with shock, the large ninja watches the blade's bright light flash in front of him, confirming his downfall. Finishing the attack, the mysterious warrior strikes the opponent's body, leaving a trail of defeat all around him. Smiling very confidently, the savior warns them not to touch the boy, claiming she has grown quite fond of him. Suffering very violently, the young man trembles while holding his wooden weapon in front of that savior. With a pale face drenched in sweat, he loses his strength, rolling his eyes back from the immense physical pain. Noticing the situation, the dark-hatted warrior lets out a gasp of surprise upon seeing the boy collapse right there. Quickly, the heroine catches the boy in her arms, preventing a hard fall onto the dirt floor. After some time passes, the main character's blurry vision starts to focus, showing his slow awakening. Startled, the hero wakes up with a jump, wearing white clothes and taking deep breaths inside a completely new room. Watching closely, the mysterious woman sitting nearby calmly asks if the boy woke up feeling okay. Keeping her face hidden by the veil, the lady shows a gentle smile, displaying a lot of calm and care. Zooming out, we notice the swordsman lying on a spacious bed while his benefactor waits seated. Reflecting, the boy notes that the woman mastered the infinite steps, but her sword art was not from the southern palace. Soon, the warrior tells him his body would be fine because she managed to calm the cold energy of the broken meridians. Bringing his hand to his chest, the young man is shocked because the 9 broken meridians were exclusive to women. Staring at the lady, the patient tries to figure out how this person managed to stabilize such a dangerous condition. Analyzing the heroine's tone of voice, the warrior guesses she is a young person with remarkable combat skills. At that moment, the woman apologizes for her lack of manners and reaches for the brim of her large dark hat. Calmly, she takes off the accessory, revealing long dark hair to the boy, who watches her very carefully. Using both hands, the swordswoman ties her hair strands, pinning everything up with a decorated cloth. Finally showing her beautiful face, the savior smiles while holding the dark accessory in her lap in a sweet way. Introducing herself as the young Lee from the Blue Sky Society, she says she knows the boy's name and invites him to follow her. The girl states that the boy could become her disciple to cure his condition and learn all the martial arts. Smiling widely, the warrior praises the precise marks the boy left on the enemies, possessing admirable courage. Curious, the main character admits he has never heard of any real cure for the 9 broken meridians. Answering promptly, the beautiful young woman claims to have a guaranteed great solution to treat that terrible issue. Showing her method, the girl creates an intense blue energy at her fingertips, lighting up the room with that beam. Mastering the true art of the heavenly thunder, the lady plans to teach the young man to open the meridians one by one. Deep in thought, the boy agrees that his terrible physical condition would not be cured just by absorbing warm energy. Since the cold energy builds up very fast, a poorly planned clash between the opposing forces would lead to a total breakdown. However, the lady explains that a man already possesses natural warm energy, making it easier to use elixirs for the treatment. Evaluating the high level of that illuminated technique, the young warrior concludes that the heroine's plan was quite possible. If he managed to absorb all the remaining cold energy, the former emperor would have the perfect foundation to surpass his past life. Focusing his gaze, the boy reflects on the whole situation, trying to understand this kind young woman's real motives. Curious, he asks why she would want to take an unknown and humble servant as her new disciple. Hearing the boy's question, the beautiful warrior flashes a lovely gentle smile, maintaining a very welcoming posture. Then the woman brings up the boy's quote about honoring martial arts, saying she was looking for an apprentice with a righteous heart. Surprised by the unexpected answer, the former emperor widens his dark eyes, feeling the weight of those sincere words. Moved, the young man grips the bedsheets tightly while reflecting on the real meaning of a righteous heart. Wanting to test her intentions, the boy asks what would happen if he refused her generous offer of help. Being very direct, the master warns that the dark cult would keep hunting the young man and suggests a very safe hedia. Suspicious, the swordsman asks why the society cared so much about him instead of just eliminating the problem. Rejecting the cruelty, the lady claims that abandoning the weak would make them the same as the worst monsters in that world. She continues, assuming that most cruel people would choose to sacrifice the small ones to save the bigger ones. Smiling tenderly, the girl says she wants to be the person who protects the oppressed left behind by high society. Completely amazed by such nobility, the boy stares at the woman's calm face, feeling a deep respect for her. Internally, the warrior concludes that the girl's strong determination made her very worthy of being his great master. Deciding to change his destiny, the young man bows his body forward, showing reverence before the noble swordswoman. Keeping his head down, the boy humbly apologizes for doubting the good intentions of that sudden proposal. Understanding the boy's fears, the woman smiles in a friendly way, asking if he had finally made up his mind. Lifting his face with great firmness, the main character confirms his choice, stating that he would follow the young woman from then on. Very happy with the new alliance, the heroine praises the boy's wise decision, calling him by his humiliating old nickname. Worried about that derogatory term, the woman asks if the boy didn't have a real name to be called by. Overcome with anger, the hero remembers the bearded man's abuse, feeling disgusted by that infamous title forced upon him. Planning to throw off the evil cult's hunt, the boy realizes the huge need to adopt a new identity. Reflecting on his honor, the former emperor decides to carry his old family's name to honor the old times. Thinking about the masked monsters, he chooses his second name meaning the end, to declare the ruin of all villains. While the girl suggested thinking of something cool, the boy interrupts the conversation, saying the 2 words he picked. Completely convinced, the boy announces he would go by the name Namgong Jun from that major moment in his life onward. Analyzing the sound, the swordswoman brings her hand to her chin, repeating the syllables calmly to get used to the title. Approving the choice, the beautiful woman smiles happily, praising the boy's new name with plenty of excitement in her voice. Wasting no time, the young warrior adjusts his posture on the edge of the bed, preparing a gesture of immense formal respect. Kneeling solemnly on the mattress, the boy formally introduces himself as the kind young woman's new, loyal disciple. With great respect, the young man presses his forehead to the bed, bowing his body to greet his beautiful new master. Accepting the reverence, the swordswoman smiles very sweetly, watching her first apprentice with plenty of pride. Keeping his face against the mattress, the young man shows total submission and gratitude for that young warrior's nobility. Calling the boy her disciple, the woman tells him to stand up, warning that she was going to make a rather sudden request. Flashing a beautiful smile, the heroine announces that they would start his martial arts training right that very second. Completely caught off guard, the boy breaks a cold sweat and shows a lot of confusion in his eyes, not understanding the rush. Soon the scenery changes, showing the large wooden house surrounded by rocky mountains under a beautiful late afternoon. On the table rests an old martial arts book, keeping the secrets of the true heavenly lightning technique. Explaining the steps, the master suggests the boy starts his study by memorizing the basics of that powerful secret formula. Outside, night begins to fall, covering the mountains with a lightly starry sky and very orange clouds. Very excited, the warrior taps the book on the table, calling the boy by the wrong name and encouraging him to read the manual. Feeling awkward, the disciple scratches his cheek, correcting his surname's pronunciation and leaving the woman quite thoughtful. Holding a page full of old symbols, the master figures that the former sword servant already had a basic reading foundation. Confirming his mentor's deduction, the young man gives a small smile, agreeing with her statement obediently. Very proud, the young woman claims to be a genius mentor, ready to guide the boy in the tough battle against the evil cult. Smiling confidently, the girl asks what kind of energy the boy would like to pull from that ancient manuscript. Analyzing the open book, the young man notices that the energy flow needed to be pushed in a very vigorous and fast way. Perplexed by the apprentice's quick deduction, the woman praises his mind, saying the boy learned 10 things at once. Observing his mentor's capability, the main character reflects that talking to her felt like debating with an equal. After a while, day breaks, lighting up the vast mountain and revealing a beautiful clear sky behind the damp green leaves. Looking out the window, the mentor notices the passing hours and turns her head, asking if her beloved apprentice was not tired. Showing no exhaustion, the warrior stands up, saying he had already memorized the technique and wanted to start meditating right there. Worried, the beautiful woman brings her hand to her face and warns it would be almost impossible for him to feel the energy on his first try. But supporting the boy's dedication, the heroine touches his shoulders, telling the young man to sit on the floor without pushing his body too hard. With his eyes closed, the disciple concentrates, creating a massive aura of red and golden lights all around himself. Breathing in very hard, the boy realizes that his new body structure was reacting very well to the training. Breathing out, he feels the great power flow with immense ease after just one single complete meditation cycle. Forming a bluish aura, the hero marvels at the width of his energy channels combining with his old memories. Trembling with shock, the woman notices the sudden manifestation of the vibrant aura, calling her new apprentice a genius. Joining his two hands, the warrior forms a very bright ball of energy, feeling a strong heat warming his cold chest. Slowly opening his eyes, the boy shows a calm and very focused look after managing to master the new technique. Clapping her hands with a lot of excitement, the beautiful master praises the wonderful work of her newest and dedicated disciple. Holding her right hand out toward the boy, the heroine suggests he try to copy her movement exactly. Standing up, the young swordswoman focuses a large amount of blue lightning around her own clenched fist. Watching that intense light, the warrior reflects on the danger of revealing his own strength so easily in the martial world. But knowing he is in front of his ally, he also summons lightning around his own hand quite easily. Completely shocked by the scene, the dark-haired woman widens her eyes seeing the boy's absurd success. Smiling full of pride, the lady concludes she used up all her life's luck to find such a skilled apprentice. Excited by the progress, the former emperor asks to learn other sword arts and gets immediate permission from his mentor. Raising her fist, the excited girl invites the young man to go to the Blue Sky Society and find a perfect style there. Hearing the friendly invitation, the boy focuses his vision and murmurs about the great chance to master a new fighting style. Remembering his tragic past, the main character concludes that repeating his old techniques would lead him to the same ruin. Clenching his fist with a lot of determination, the swordsman decides to create new martial studies to surpass his past life. Walking toward their new destination, the duo's firm steps mark the long dirt road surrounded by vegetation. Staring at the vastness of the damp forest, the apprentice uses the long trip to ask about the Blue Sky Society. Explaining the origin, the warrior reveals that the group was a union of several sects ruined by the evil sun cult. Recalling the past, the woman details that the old alliance was built by the sad survivors of those cruel tragedies. Climbing a rocky trail, the former emperor asks if the group's greatest virtues would be justice and honor. Furrowing his brow, the young man cannot understand why totally stopping the demonic cult was not their main priority. Telling the story, the master narrates that the former leader refused to throw the saved lives back into the flames of strong hatred. Showing the group's kindness, we see a knight healing civilians and using his spared life to protect those in need. Carrying a wounded person on his shoulders, the honorable warriors preferred to embrace heroism instead of seeking pure revenge. Showing the sect's huge library, the mentor lists the countless martial arts rescued and donated by several warriors. Stopping the walk very abruptly, the lady confesses that her own clan was also ended at the hands of the terrible cult. Flashing a slightly gloomy smile, the beautiful woman tries to stay strong in the face of the bitter memories of her past. Looking at the boy, the swordswoman details that her current style mixes her family's steps with the library's teachings. Putting the pieces together, the boy clenches both fists as he finally understands how the Southern Palace techniques ended up there. Visualizing the old days, the hero remembers that a long 200 years had already passed since his beloved clan's sad end. Turning her face away in embarrassment, the sensitive warrior wipes a small tear and apologizes for bringing up such a sad topic. Trying to comfort his dear master, the boy says it is okay while the woman dries her eyes, picking up the pace on the trail. Admiring the landscape, the master comments on the four beauties of the famous Mount Huang, praising her young student's cleverness. Walking through the thick mist, the leader reveals that the Blue Sky Society was hidden among those natural wonders right there. Leading the way, the swordswoman tells the boy to follow her steps closely because they needed to cross a formation. Observing something very surprising, the young man's face takes on a shocked expression at that grand, unexpected sight. Before his eyes, the hero recognizes the grand southern heaven palace built in the exact same spot as his old past life. Arriving at the entrance, the local guards bow their bodies, giving welcoming greetings to the master of the sword hall. Entering the courtyard, the boy asks about the mandatory use of bamboo hats while the woman laughs, keeping a big mystery. Walking up the stone stairs, the duo approaches an imposing building, announcing their own return after the long trip. Welcoming the duo, a long-bearded older gentleman asks in a friendly way if that was the boy mentioned earlier. Patting the boy on the back, the heroine smiles very happily, confirming that he was her newest disciple. Staring at the boy calmly, the old ink master evaluates the situation, guessing the woman grew quite fond of the young man. Keeping his arms crossed, the wise gentleman skips common tests due to the master's guarantee, focusing only on the combat test. Interrupting the mentor's answer, the brave apprentice takes a step forward, ensuring he is completely ready right then. Worried, the leader points out the short training time, while the young man confirms having only learned the heavenly thunder art. Finding that confidence quite bold, the wise man's sharp gaze shines, showing a lot of interest in the whole situation. Presenting the challenge, the elder calls forth a bald fighter with a very stiff posture, telling the rookie to block just one attack from him. Without hesitation, the summoned imposing warrior walks down the stone stairs with firm steps, getting ready for the incoming clash. Tense about the situation, the young man mentions he has no weapon to defend against that heavy charge from the muscular opponent. Smiling gently, the woman offers a very beautiful blade, claiming that regular weapons would break easily against that fighter. Reaching out with both hands, the main character holds the new sword very firmly, humbly thanking her for the great help. Pulling the steel from the scabbard, the rival gets ready while the mentor advises the boy to just dodge so he won't take hard damage. Showing a threatening face, the bald opponent warns darkly that this young apprentice would end up losing his own life. Jumping to an absurd height, the rival prepares a devastating top-down strike, leaving the hero quite amazed. Falling like a true meteor, the bald fighter splits the air, cutting everything while the boy holds his new weapon scabbard. Drawing the blade with a jerk, the warrior blocks the heavy impact, noticing the immense physical strength held by the muscular opponent. Clashing the steels with great intensity, the friction between the two swords creates bright sparks, causing a deafening ring. Acting smartly, the hero slides his weapon over the enemy blade, swiftly shifting his body sideways. Noticing the new path, the bald warrior widens his eyes, quite amazed to have his great attack deflected so easily. Taking advantage of the huge gap in the enemy's guard, the boy raises his glowing sword at the completely defenseless rival's back. Turning his body fast, the opponent defends the charge, generating a strong shockwave, as he notes it is a technique just like his own. Gliding with great agility, the boy dodges the enemy attack, scraping his blade against the opponent's steel. Pressing the weapon hard, the bald fighter grinds his teeth in frustration as he notices the rookie's great technique. Observing the apprentice's thin build, the strong opponent wonders how such a small body could have such a great foundation. Planting his feet on the stone floor, the man concludes that all that absurd power did not just come from the hero's muscle strength. Keeping a relaxed stance, the former emperor holds the sword while the rival recognizes the use of the purest martial energy. Clapping her hands in joy, the beautiful mentor praises her student's perfect defense, drawing smiles from everyone around. Shocked by that talent, the examiner widens his eyes, remembering that the boy had only trained the basics of energy. Noticing the marked floor, the fighter realizes he was pushed backward by the intense sword clash that happened seconds ago. Staring at the boy in an impressed way, the bald man wonders how the society's future would rest in the hands of that prodigy. Watching everything from the top of the stairs, the wise ink master declares that the group would be totally safe for 50 years. Surprised by the footsteps, the evaluator turns his face in disbelief, seeing the elder walk down the stairs after so many years secluded there. Approaching the group, the older gentleman comments that the place's supreme leader would make that boy his apprentice if he saw him there. Wanting to know more, the elder asks the young fighter's name, and he promptly answers, calling himself Namgung-jun. Accepting the boy's presence, the wise man gives his official welcome, handing the rookie the starting title of a single cloud. Covering her face with a fan, the mentor smiles, saying she hopes her beloved disciple will reach the 4-cloud level soon. Clarifying the place's rules, the examiner explains that everyone's hierarchy changes based on the number of clouds. Extending his large hand, the fighter offers an item to the boy, thanking him for the valuable combat lesson he just had. Holding a beautiful silver medallion, the man admires the young prodigy's calmness even after taking such a harsh reception. Bowing his body as a sign of great respect, the swordsman holds the weapon's handle and humbly thanks him for the gift received. Excited by the approval, the warrior asks the ink master if the new apprentice could already visit the great arsenal. Without waiting long, the young woman grabs the boy's wrist firmly, telling him to tag along very hastily. Running across the courtyard, the lady drags the boy while the wise man praises the fact that the woman provides the light and water for him to grow. Giving a slight chuckle, the big evaluator completes the metaphor, stating that their duty was to provide the best soil of all. Deep in thought, the bald man murmurs the young talent's name, trying to process everything he witnessed in that incredibly fast and crazy duel. Looking at the palm of his own hand, the large warrior reflects on the massive force put into that single rival strike. Stopping her run, the heroine turns back, advising the bald man to switch his sword, leaving the wise man quite intrigued. Confused, the evaluator looks down and notices a huge crack in his sword, caused by the rookie boy's simple touch. Entering the famous arsenal of reflection, the boy faces a colossal structure filled with stairs and well-lit shelves. Judging the absurd scale of the room, the hero concludes that the old library from his past life would lose badly in that match. Walking fascinated down the aisle, the apprentice follows his dedicated master, catching a glimpse of the sea of new knowledge all around. Smiling gently, the woman reveals that, unlike other sects, this place had no restrictions of any kind. Then the master holds out a well-worn manual, handing the boy a sword technique based on the 3-cloud level. Upon checking the book, the boy realizes the leader removed the old limits but created a standard based on the student's rank. Immediately, the warrior understands why that huge arsenal got the grand title focused on the power of self-reflection. Wanting to make things easier, the lady asks if she herself should pick a suitable style, getting a very quick refusal. With great determination, the former emperor places his hand on his chest, saying he prefers to dig up his own combat manual. With no problem, the girl agrees with the boy's idea, only demanding that he show her his chosen technique at the end. After this long chat, the image shifts to the beautiful roofs of the massive structure under the sun of a beautiful reddish sky. Already inside the huge collection, a lone archivist waits seated while the apprentice searches for manuals on the large shelf. Staring at the boy, the clerk thinks about the master's advice, ordering to help the new student in case he got lost. To understand the case, the young receptionist remembers the woman leaving in a rush, putting the responsibility in his hands. Faced with that bizarre situation, the librarian watches the rookie's actions, keeping a very worried and tense look. Suddenly, an old flying book drops roughly on the stone floor, landing on top of a pile of discarded works. Flipping pages at high speed, the swordsman checks the content quickly, leaving the clerk quite intrigued and clueless. Because of that giant mess, the main character tosses manuals into the air, causing the poor archivist a lot of annoyance. Totally impatient, the receptionist stands up from the desk, deciding to give a very gentle warning to that inexperienced student. But before that, the young man reaches out and grabs a wooden sword from the old rack, giving a heads up that he would use that gear. Seeing the boy draw the weapon quickly, the poor librarian gets a big scare, letting out a long, very shocked sigh. Showing extreme fluidity, the boy starts throwing very strong sequential strikes, tearing through all the air around the hall. Shocked by the firmness of the hard attacks, the clerk widens his stunned eyes because he manages to recognize the patterns of that dance. Quickly, the archivist checks the scattered manuals, noticing that the prodigy combined great techniques from highly lethal swordsmen. Gathering intense blue energy, the rookie unleashes a highly aggressive slash, uniting the teachings of the fastest moves. Impacting the entire scene, the force of the booming strike creates a huge gale, scaring the poor, fearful employee. Unable to handle it, the scared archivist leans his body on the table full of scrolls, doubting his own eyes. Sweating cold, the man watches the apprentice in silence, cementing that this awesome display of power felt like a pure lie. Finally standing still with the training sword in his right hand, the young man shows off an imposing posture compared to the power of a lightning bolt. Feeling a bizarre aura behind his back, the hero turns his face, demanding the real identity of the mysterious being hidden in the room. Behind the archivist, a huge figure wrapped in shadows asks a macabre question, freezing the receptionist's body right away. Turning his neck on high alert, the clerk stares at the scary guy who asks again about the true owner of such power. Showing scary red eyes, the intruder demands to find out the secrets of the martial forms, used with extreme urgency. Hearing the intruder, the dark-haired young man turns his face seriously, noticing that this energy seemed to have a demonic origin. Right behind, the large figure is revealed as a red-haired man in dark clothes, outraged to see demonic humans invading the place. Viewing the scene from above, the big warrior stares at the prodigy while the poor archivist cowers at the desk full of scrolls. At that moment, the talented rookie keeps a straight face as he tries to figure out how a demonic human got in there. Trembling a lot, the archivist gestures, asking the great master to calm down, stating that the boy was just a newly arrived recruit. Having zero patience, the huge warrior pushes the employee's face away with his hand, demanding space to move freely. Smiling with great interest, the red-haired master asks what that sword art was, never seen in the arsenal's records. Noticing the invader's lack of hostility, the talented swordsman calmly replies that he was making up his own strike. With that, the giant in dark clothes steps heavily on the scrolls scattered across the floor, believing the young man's words. Excited, the big guy draws his own sword, laughing out loud and demanding to see the boyish forms in exchange for a good prize. Desperate as he foresees the worst, the clumsy clerk yells, reminding the master that the rookie had barely started training. But the imposing veteran tells the employee to shut up and just watch the show, leaving the poor man sweating in panic. Wasting no time, the main character takes a firm stance with his wooden weapon, demanding a valuable elixir as his reward. Licking that direct attitude, the big guy pulls his dark blade from the sheath, agreeing to the deal made by the brave boy. Showing off a mean and excited look, the master tells his opponent to attack with everything because he would not use his internal energy. Focusing his gaze very coldly, the prodigy counters the enemy's words, saying he could use energy if he needed to. Finding that huge confidence funny, the red-haired veteran lets out a loud laugh, calling the boy completely crazy. Charging like a true lightning bolt, the young man attacks using the first form of his technique, creating a bright flash in the hall. Taking the raw impact, the big guy uses his own sword to defend himself, admitting that this strong strike was quite heavy. Using his massive brute strength, the dark-clad man pushes the boy backward, swinging the heavy blade through the air with everything he has. Gliding nimbly across the floor, the rookie backs away, avoiding the destructive blue light trail made by the opponent's heavy attack. Managing to steady himself quickly, the swordsman plants his feet on the ground, raising his wooden weapon to keep fighting. Creating an intense energy trail around the weapon, the boy prepares a new aggressive move, focusing on the high stance. Spinning the blade with huge precision, the prodigy incorporates the fast flow of the mysterious mountain's old martial forms. Jumping gracefully toward the opponent, the hero multiplies his powerful attack, firing 3 very bright blue beams. Watching the surprising technique falling from the sky, the veteran widens his right eye, completely shocked by such talent. Nimbly, the experienced warrior uses his sword to block the several fast slashes, noting the incredible similarity of the strikes. Faced with this, the giant flashes a big mean smile, impressed to see the talented recruit adding mix-ups to the fight. After the intense trade of blows, the young man backs off, taking deep breaths as he feels his old battle senses slowly returning. However, energy glows strongly in the hero's chest, showing that his frail physical body needed to finish the duel quickly. Charging with everything he has, the boy unleashes dozens of fast strikes against the giant, aiming to be quicker and more precise. Sliding his foot on the floor, the talented fighter widens his stance a few inches to gain stability. Wasting no time, the young warrior prepares the 12th form of the technique, firing an endless lightning bolt. Surprised by the shower of blue energy, the strong man raises his heavy blade, blocking the deadly attacks. Using all his brute strength, the veteran twists his body and deflects the powerful glowing flow to the sides of the arena. Smiling maliciously, the red-haired big guy claims that this intense battle was getting very exciting. Meanwhile, the prodigy takes a deep breath and focuses all his remaining power into his weapon, prepping the final strike. With sharp vision, the talented swordsman focuses on the target, feeling the energy flow through his entire tired body. Watching the area, the experienced opponent notices the glowing trails of the next move the boy would make. Closing his eyes, the calm fighter understands that the wooden sword in his hand was like pure forged lightning. Faced with this, the rookie decides he needed to become an unstoppable thunderbolt and charge with full force at the giant. Holding the weapon with extreme firmness, the young man channels a crushing aura around the training blade. Confident in his technique, the skilled warrior opens his bright eyes, knowing this was the perfect path. Jumping up high, the boy summons the 13th form and fires a single, devastating thunderbolt toward the ground. Immediately, a huge explosion of light illuminates the entire library as dust rises from the massive impact. After the intense flash, the scene reveals the big guy's slightly bruised hand gripping the heavy combat weapon. Completely shocked, the redhead admits to himself that he felt threatened by that mere recruit's scary attack. Trembling with tension, the powerful fighter realizes he had to use his internal energy to avoid taking heavy damage. Slowly, the smoke clears, showing the boy crouching after the huge impact while the giant stares at him from afar. Lowering his weapon, the veteran warrior agrees he had no choice but to acknowledge the huge talent. Still amazed, the superior figures the skinny boy had a formidable power hidden inside since birth. Snapping back to reality, the rookie turns his face in confusion as he hears the man ask about his martial moves. Curious, the redhead praises that art's perfect order and asks if the technique was made up of 13 moves. Confirming the information, the main character grabs the master's attention, who quickly asks the newly created style's name. Without missing a beat, the skilled swordsman shows a calm face and reveals that his powerful technique was called lightning. Finishing his answer, the young man states that the fast art consisted of the 13 electric strikes of the continuous flash. Hearing all this, the coworker from afar is terrified to notice his friend create a brand new top-tier style. Right after, the huge warrior in dark clothes approaches the boy and calls out to him with a very bossy voice. Giving a genuine smile, the big guy praises the fighter and invites him to join the Mystic Ink Wheel Hall. Quite surprised by the unexpected offer, the boy tilts his head to the side, wondering about the new place. At that moment, a woman arrives clenching her fist, angrily asking what all this was supposed to mean. Fury takes over the beautiful master, who steps closer asking if that place stole other people's disciples. Finding the situation funny, the big guy smirks and says he liked the boy, wanting to know if there was a problem. With a stiff posture, the instructor in light clothes states the young man was her student, demanding total distance. Suddenly their auras clash, forming the image of a huge blue serpent fighting fiercely against a white tiger. To provoke his rival, the warrior questions the reason for the complaint, asking if the woman wanted to fight right then and there. Noticing the heavy vibe, the prodigy speaks up, calmly asking both of them to stop that intense argument. Holding his wooden weapon, the rookie speaks out, declaring he would indeed go to the hall proposed by the man. Completely shocked, the girl questions his decision, while the student answers he would only do it at the right time. Soon after, the boy explains he would visit the redhead as a training partner, while his coworker thinks he is totally crazy. Covering his face with his hands, the huge fighter lowers his head, asking again what the recruit had just said. Unable to hold it in, the giant lets out a loud, scandalous laugh, echoing his great amusement throughout the huge room. Satisfied with the boldness, the veteran says the young man made an interesting offer and asks him not to make him wait too long. Following that, the boy skillfully catches a small black box in mid-air, getting the item straight from the excited redhead. Turning his back to the trio, the strong man says goodbye with a mischievous smile, ending his visit in a very odd way. Quickly, the experienced warrior vanishes from the spot, leaving behind only a blurred trail showing his incredible speed. Out of sheer frustration, the instructor scowls, complaining about how that intruder could be so annoying. Looking at the small item, the beautiful girl asks about what is inside and quickly recognizes it as the rare elixir promised to the hero. Giving off a strong glow, the mystic pill reveals itself as an excellent medicine for someone just starting in cultivation. Putting away the valuable resource, the confused apprentice asks why he was invited, thinking he would go straight to his official destination. Answering him, the woman points out that rookies go through an adaptation period and have to compete against each other at first. With a calm smile, she adds that the best ones could choose their destinations, as she couldn't just take him there herself. Confident in his own power, the talented teen tells her not to worry, guaranteeing he would win the tournament soon. At night, the scene cuts, showing the mountain's massive, classic roofs bathed in the beautiful glow of the full moon. In his quarters, the lone fighter wipes his mouth after swallowing the medicine, feeling his frail body react very fast. Unexpectedly, the teenager suffers from severe pain, grabbing his own chest in despair as he tries to stay on his feet. Sweat drips down the warrior's face as he grinds his teeth, noticing the terrible side effect from the ingested pill. Trying to endure the absurd suffering, the cultivator sits on his bed, crossing his legs, and focuses on his breathing. Releasing a warm golden energy, the boy discovers that using his martial art greatly reduced that punishment. After the initial scare, the main character notices the technique was working better, needing to gather the mystic energy right after. The boy collapses exhausted on the bed, breathing deeply after finishing the tough process of cultivating his internal energy. Lying there, the boy thinks that a tiny mistake could be fatal, deciding to focus purely on physical strengthening the next day. The next morning, the bright sun rises in the sky, lighting up the mystic sect's entire huge training yard. Wasting no time, the recruit hits a wooden log hard using his training sword to improve his physique. Watching everything, an elder master tells his subordinate that this class had many dedicated students. Looking down, the wise man praises the disciple's talent while noticing the intense training routine around the place. Next to the old man, two instructors watch the class perform and get curious about one specific person. Bringing her blade down hard, a red-haired girl is praised by the masters as a talent capable of challenging the hierarchy. However, one of the men argues that the promising young girl still fell behind other prodigies already known in the region. Looking over, the instructor asks about the main character, who is just training his physical body instead of the sword. Sweating a lot, the boy keeps a firm stance lifting a heavy barrel while the evaluator doubts his victory. Laughing, the long-haired man mocks that the young man should have mastered the basics before coming to that place. Thoughtful, the old elder strokes his long, white beard and declares they would only know their true level in direct combat. With that, the leader orders his subordinates to set up a martial duel to test so many students at once. 3 days later, a thick fog covers the main arena where the practical combat exams would finally happen. In the stands, the different students wait anxiously, murmuring about how many rookies would actually be good at fighting. Meanwhile, the senior examiners settle into their fancy chairs on the main platform of the large yard. Holding a scroll in the center of the arena, the organizer asks for absolute silence to begin the first match of the day. Immediately, a padded stick strikes a huge gong hard, sounding the official alarm for the start of the tournament. Reading the paper, the judge calls the red-haired girl and the talented main character to the center of the field. Getting in a stance, the fighter warns she would not go easy, while the boy tells her to attack because he would wait. Tilting his head in boredom, the teenager patiently repeats the same instruction, waiting for the opponent's starting attack. Feeling insulted, the young swordswoman loses her patience and grinds her teeth, entirely furious at his arrogance. Rushing in quickly, the girl yells in offense as she brings her blade down with immense force toward her opponent's head. Completely focused, the skilled fighter easily tracks the sword's path coming his way. With no effort at all, the rookie deflects the attack, sending his rival's heavy weapon flying through the air in a single crushing move. Faced with the impact, the girl's pupils shake in terror, feeling all her strength completely neutralized on the spot. Completely paralyzed, the student whispers in shock, not understanding anything as her own weapon flies loose across the big yard. Quickly, the organizer raises his hand and declares the boy's absolute victory, causing a huge uproar around the place. Shocked by the quick defeat of the famous prodigy, the other rookies shout desperately, wanting to know who the winner was. Watching the duel, the red-haired warrior praises the boy's refinement while his master agrees with a big smile. Still in the yard, the short-haired girl trembles in complete disbelief at the loss, murmuring that it was impossible. Walking calmly, the talented swordsman turns his back after ending the clash using only a single strike. Wasting no time, the main examiner raises his voice in the huge arena, calling the next participant to continue the tournament. Immediately, a quite elegant boy with grayish hair walks toward the yard, grabbing the attention of everyone present. Taking firm steps, the skilled student enters the combat area, recognized as the big promising star of the region. Showing a very sharp look, the rookie named Chiang stands tall, waiting for instructions to begin his own duel. Right after, the powerful warrior squares off against a standard recruit as the judge orders the martial clash to begin. Annoyed by his rival's stance, the regular student narrows his eyes, wondering why the guy did not even pull the weapon from his waist. Before the opponent can react, the gray-haired boy moves his arm, striking the boy's blade very hard. Using immense strength, the skilled young man sends his rival flying through the air, showing huge ease in that match. The scene shifts, revealing another competitor completely shocked, sweating cold as he faces the promising star's terrifying power. Keeping a calm face, the long-haired fighter turns his head aside, showing off huge confidence in his skills. Slowly, the talented teenager shifts his gaze over his own shoulder, focusing his attention on a very specific target. From high up in the stands, the old masters watch the scene impressed, noting that the young man also won with a single strike. Without hesitation, the head examiner raises his right arm, announcing the gray-haired recruit's absolute victory to the crowd. On the other side, our hero crosses his arms, getting quite confused as he notices the powerful winner staring at him. Giving a slight smile, the boy finds the situation interesting, guaranteeing he had no intention whatsoever of losing the tournament. Hours later, the students gather near the bracket board, chatting about the high expectations for the exam's final stretch. At that moment, a thick brush glides quickly across the light paper, writing down the dark-haired young man's name as a standout. Surprised by the rookie, the disciples whisper to each other, assuming they had never heard of that strong recruit before. With that, the instructor walks around the place, hearing the masters talk about the strange lack of info on the boy there. Covering her mouth with her hand, the woman in light clothes tries to hold back her laughter, feeling quite proud of her strong student. Heading back to her quarters, the trainer thinks about being the prodigy's tutor, waiting very eagerly for the final round. The landscape cuts, showing the entire massive combat arena, hinting that the big day of the tournament's final phase had arrived. Showing a dark look, the gray-haired opponent stays quiet, thinking about our hero's name before the duel starts. Already in the yard, the main character waits his turn while the spectators talk about how extremely skinny his body is. Even so, people acknowledge that the crushing talent shown by the slim warrior was incredibly high and scary. Memories of the first clash come up, reminding everyone how that recruit's energy took down the girls so fast. Staring at the swordsman, the new opponent with a huge build clenches his fists, thinking with determination that he could not lose the fight. Remembering his family's great sacrifice, the gray-haired warrior stares at the ground, thinking he needed to win for them. With a firm stomp on the ground, the match judge gets the attention of the two boys, asking if they were ready. Smiling widely, the master of the Iron Tower introduces himself, revealing he decided to ref that final big match. Hearing this, the young fighter maintains a very calm posture, quietly waiting for the signal to start the fight. Staring intently at his opponent, the light-haired competitor hears the big guy ask for an incredible duel. Giving the green light, the judge lowers his arm, signaling the start of the clash while the fighters face off in the arena. Drawing his huge blade, the experienced combatant thinks about the rumors of the boy using only heavy swords. Wasting no time, the opponent charges fast at the rookie, planting his foot on the ground to get a good attacking momentum. Delivering a swift strike, the gray-haired warrior planned to give the main character zero chance to use his heavy weapon. The brutal charge comes down hard toward the hero, forcing the boy to focus on the sharp blade heading for his face. Dodging with absurd ease, the prodigy shifts his body slightly to the side, escaping that dangerous cut. Spinning his own body, the dark-haired fighter ducks quickly as the enemy weapon hits the smooth yard floor. Shocked by the situation, the swordsman widens his eyes, realizing his powerful starting move failed badly. Trying to turn the tables, the startled competitor shifts his leg's center of gravity, prepping a new charge. But before he could attack, the veteran warrior spots an electric flash appearing on the mysterious boy's weapon. Realizing the rookie's combat style, the opponent notices his fast, strange posture and the huge absence of the heavy blade. Like a true lightning bolt dropping from the sky, the main character rushes in at an absurd speed, delivering a fast frontal slash. Taking the hit head-on, the rival gets very scared, wondering internally how his skinny body held so much strength. The clash of the swords creates a huge shockwave across the yard, blowing away all the dust around the young fighters. Watching the fight up close, the disciples in the stands leave their mouths hanging open at the intensity of the clash. After the flash fades, the gray-haired warrior pulls back his weapon slowly and says he has an important question for the boy. With a quite sad face, the veteran fighter asks if the boy used to wield a thick blade before this. Putting away his gear, the hero calmly answers that in this fighting world, it is always necessary to have tricks up your sleeve. With his hand shaking a lot, the older swordsman gives a quiet laugh as he realizes the rookie was hiding hidden power. Accepting his fate, the man sighs deeply, raising his own fist as a sign of respect, accepting his major loss. Returning the opponent's politeness, the prodigy puts his hands together in front of his chest, saying that was a good match. Right after, the entire place erupts in cheers, with the crowd celebrating the outcome of that incredible tournament finale. Impressed by the action, the masters in the upper seats clap their hands, praising the fast win with just one strike. Smiling full of pride, the beautiful instructor in light clothes claps for her beloved disciple, calling the young man magnificent. Declaring the end of the competition, the big judge raises the winning hero's arm, announcing the boy as the grand champion. Smiling with satisfaction, the young warrior raises his arm to the crowd, celebrating the end of that thrilling match. Handing over a small black box, the grand judge rewards the victorious fighter for his massive achievement. Inside the container sat a magic root that was 300 years old, making it an extremely rare item. Peacefully thanking him for the prize, the recruit leaves the big guy quite shocked with so much calmness. Taking the floor, the seated master states that his pavilion was considered one of the top 3 in that clan. Making a great offer, the leader suggests that his group would be the ideal starting point for the hero. As the Grand Lord of Swords, this powerful title ruled over all 10 pavilions in that society. Aiming to fight a dangerous evil sect, the young fighter understands he needed to reach that position. Completely confused by the situation, the boy asks indirectly about the topic being discussed by the leader. Right after, a red-haired man grabs his colleague's shoulder, claiming the rookie already belonged to his pavilion. Gripping his own blade's handle, the wild master admits his blood boils seeing such great talent. Jumping into the argument, a robust leader beats his own chest, promising full support if the boy picked them. Fighting intensely over owning the prodigy, the leaders start a massive argument right in the middle of the open yard. Arguing a lot among themselves, the men bring up the past fights, trying to validate their claim to the recruit. Interrupting the big mess, the beautiful tutor thanks them for the offers and gets those gentlemen's attention. Choosing his destination, the talented champion calmly announces he would join his master's pavilion. Staring at the woman with pure outrage, the leaders ask if she had pulled some kind of dirty trick. Clicking his tongue, the red-haired warrior turns his face away, while the other leader finally understands the boy's energy. Giving a very respectful bow, the grand champion officially states his wish to follow the heavenly pavilion. Exhaling massive joy, the beautiful girl welcomes the rookie with open arms as her newest and strongest pupil. Cutting the scenery, the huge pavilion rests peacefully among tall and quite foggy mountains. Changing his face to a more serious look, our hero reflects on his arrival at that mysterious place. Looking down at the yard, the boy notices several disciples surrounding his body with wooden blades. Wielding their training gear, the pavilion's veterans claim they know the boy's overwhelming fame. Holding his weapon tight, an arrogant guy challenges the rookie, wanting to test the speed of his blade. Keeping a tight formation, the fighters wait eagerly, wanting to find out if the prodigy was just rumors. With a mocking look, the veteran taunts the recruit, comparing the young warrior to a defenseless chicken. Flashing a slight smirk, the hero gets the message and says great swordsmen should talk by fighting. Taking on the new challenge with zero fear, the victorious fighter firmly grips his own stick's handle. Unsheathing his training weapon, the talented recruit takes a firm stance, telling his rivals to come at him. Staying calm, the young warrior flashes a confident smile, facing his opponents without a single drop of fear. Wasting no time, the arrogant veteran rushes forward fast with his weapon pointed at our blue-clad hero. Delivering a powerful strike, the fighter brings his blade down with a lot of force, creating a large energy trail along the way. Noticing the deadly charge, the recruit nimbly slides his feet across the smooth yard floor, managing to dodge the attack. Then, several other members rush the boy, forcing the prodigy to block multiple simultaneous cuts. Shocked by the flawless defense, the veteran swordsman realizes the rookie was using the Grand Infinite Steps technique. Having their weapons clash again, the experienced guy reflects in disbelief on how a mere recruit mastered that skill. Watching everything from the roof, the beautiful master views the initiation rite where the disciples try to crush the rookie's pressure. Smiling proudly, the tutor mentally praises her pupil for not hesitating before challenges and drawing his weapon right away. Meanwhile, two watchers are surprised, noting that the boy's speed went toe-to-toe with the best veteran. Pushing past normal limits, the young fighter moves in a scary way, proving he wasn't just keeping up. Pressuring his opponent with multiple back-to-back attacks, the talented warrior increases his own pace unstoppably. Taking that massive barrage of cuts, the panting rival is baffled by the huge internal energy inside such a skinny body. Taking a deep breath and exhaling cold air, the hero keeps a calm posture, proving the real reason he got recruited. Far from giving up, the older combatant flashes an excited smile, feeling huge curiosity about the rookie's power. Gripping his weapon's handle really tight, the veteran focuses on the clash, wanting to find the hero's strength limit right there. However, before trying any other charge, an imposing voice echoes through the yard, telling everyone to wrap up that fight. Looking up at the roof, the veteran gives a friendly smile, assuming the woman was worried about the new student. Lowering his wooden gear, the student's leader peacefully suggests they use real blades in the next match. Completely changing his attitude, the experienced warrior introduces himself very politely and welcomes the incredible champion. Being very polite, our fighter puts his hands together in front of his chest, showing total respect for the veteran there. Soon after, the end of the day arrives, dyeing the sky over the huge heavenly pavilion in a gorgeous, bright orange shade. Surrounding the prodigy in the yard, the other training buddies praise the recruit, mentioning the countless wins secured with one strike. Acknowledging the boy's massive strength, the small group happily agrees they should learn a lot from that young man. Time passes, revealing a very peaceful night under a sky covered in beautiful stars and a bright moon lighting up the houses. Already inside his quarters, the warrior drops to the floor completely panting, feeling a horrible crisis take over his skinny body. Sweating cold from so much pain, the young fighter grits his teeth, battling internally against the dangerous negative energy spreading inside. Trying to hold back that severe suffering, the boy summons his heavenly thunder energy to balance his body's strength. At that exact moment of pure agony, someone throws the door open and rushes into the dark room, heading toward the sad main character. Quickly, soft hands touch the hero's back, releasing a warm, massive bright light capable of stabilizing his pain. Calling out to his master, the boy feels immense relief while a warm, flaming aura takes over the whole dark room. Sitting behind the boy, the tutor transfers her powerful life force, creating a bright shield around them both. Thanking her for the massive help, the recruit breathes in relief, hearing the woman state that she felt his weakness from afar. On the bedroom floor, the main character confesses he needed to raise his electric arts level as soon as possible. At that moment, the instructor warns that the boy's dangerous corrupted meridians would get stronger very fast. Asking a huge favor, the fighter looks at the woman, requesting help to swallow and absorb that dangerous magic root. Completely speechless, the beautiful girl widens her big eyes, listening to her young disciple's unusual request. Flashing a beautiful, confident smile, the warrior accepts the challenge, telling the boy to leave everything in her hands. Wasting no time, the warrior bites off a piece of the large special root, breaking the hard shell with his own teeth. Chewing the valuable item, the prodigy thinks that this 300-year-old plant was not the best elixir of all. Swallowing it all at once, the swordsman notices the plant would be a massive help in building his internal energy. Placing her hands on the boy's back, the tutor gets ready while the student announces he was ready to absorb it all. Extremely focused, the hero plans to circle the pure force to keep the plant's magic from spreading across his body. Suddenly, an explosion of golden light lights up the whole room, showing the intense power transfer ritual. Amazed by the situation, the woman notes that the force merged perfectly, as if the boy were a very experienced master. Generating a massive pillar bright fire, the recruit shocks everyone in the yard by managing to drain all the root's energy. With sparks flying out of his mouth, the rookie leaves people baffled by the unseen feat of consuming all the elixir's force. Because of so many blue lightning bolts in his eyes, the boy scares his instructor with that giant level of physical aptitude. Now on his feet, the beautiful woman says he could take the promotion exam, while the recruit deeply thanks her for the support. Near the door, the leader mentions she was leaving the room, advising the powerful warrior to rest a little. Walking calmly through a beautiful bamboo forest, the warrior heads on her way under a wonderful sunlight. Stepping firmly on the dry earth, the master reflects on the incredible meditation and breathing shown by her strong disciple. Quickly, the woman picks up her pace, feeling a sudden wave of creative thoughts flooding her mind. Running at high speed, the girl believes she is fully capable of breaking her own stagnant power's barrier. Showing a face full of pure joy, the powerful tutor recognizes that all this new inspiration was thanks to the boy. Time moves forward, showing a clear, bright sunny morning at the beautiful facilities of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Moving his body quite nimbly, the veteran fighter throws fast strikes, slicing through a large wooden dummy. With the demonstration done, the experienced guy announces that everyone needed to master half of the technique to go on missions. Leading the small group, the master orders everyone to practice the moves while the students hit the pillars clumsily. Sweating a lot due to the training's difficulty, a girl focuses on her tutor's legs, trying to figure out the movement pattern. Quite surprised by the situation, the young disciple widens his eyes as he watches the fast strikes in the yard. Impressing everyone, our main character fully masters this stance on his very first big try. Amazed by the prodigy's genius, the veterans ask if the tutor hadn't taught the young man beforehand. Touching his own chin, the student's leader remembers seeing the heavenly master leaving the rookie's quarters yesterday. Wasting no time, the experienced warrior approaches the hero and asks directly about the possible secret lessons. Denying the rumor very calmly, the great fighter keeps moving his weapon perfectly throughout the whole test. Looking firmly at the swordsman, the boy suggests they could move straight to the Great Extension technique. Hearing that, the other recruits drop their jaws and assume the boy possessed a huge, very monstrous talent. Analyzing all the rookie's brilliant posture, the experienced veteran admits in his thoughts that this level was incredible. Motivated by the young prodigy, the small group agrees to train hard so they won't be passed by their newest peer. Going back to focus on the practical class, the instructor accepts the request and announces he would start teaching the new expansion strike there. Throwing a big, long swing with his blade, the master tells the recruit to watch the powerful moves closely. Cutting the scene to a huge closed room, several important leaders gather in the beautiful blue sky society. Reading a long old scroll, a bald master reports to his peers about dangerous groups acting in those areas. Talking a lot about the tense situation, the men assume they might need to step in with a massive armed force soon. Changing the subject suddenly, the guy brings up the next big topic of that meeting, focused on the strong heavenly hero. Thinking about her young disciple, the beautiful tutor figures that sending the injured boy outside would be way too dangerous. Completely surprised by the rumors, the experienced warriors ask if the boy really had those scary meridians. Worked up about the delay, the big guy states they saved the boy exactly to keep him far away from the cruel sex. Clashing with that idea, the robust fighter explains the villains would love to run into that well-developed talent again. Gripping his cup roughly, the other mysterious leader draws all of the young girl's attention back to the tea table. Resting his two hands together, the wise and experienced long-bearded gentleman asks what the rookie's mentor thought about it. Closing her eyes confidently, the warrior argues peacefully, claiming her student didn't need any protection. Keeping her beautiful calm posture, the leader points out that reckless fighters had no right to hold a weapon. Sharing the boy's beautiful words, the tutor defends the entire mature nature of her brave, light-clad disciple. With total belief in the boy's massive future, the girl declares her strong wish to turn him into an excellent, divine hero for everyone. Being guided toward a bright path of light, the master dreams of a great and beautiful future for the super-talented recruit. Slamming the wooden table hard, the stressed guy scolds the wise men, bringing up how monstrous the boy in there was. Interrupting the massive mess, the wild red-haired master crosses his arms, acknowledging the rookie's high magic level. Trading looks with his other annoyed partner, the experienced warrior calls that fearful attitude a true shame. Explaining to the other peers, the bald man reports that the rookie had a formidable talent for creation in martial arts. Thinking it over, the leader comments that if the recruit gained experience, he would become a major asset for the whole society. Understanding the case, the older master with white beards proposes letting the prodigy explore the outside world for now. However, the wise leader suggests leaving out any mission tied to the demonic sect to guarantee the warrior's safety. Hearing the plan, the bearded fighter quickly agrees with the idea, backing the great senior elder's wise choice. With his back turned, the red-haired guy states he has no issues with the suggestion, accepting that drawn-out fate. Very happy with the decision, the beautiful instructor flashes a proud smile, feeling quite joyful for her prodigy student. The scene shifts to a busy dock with a voice telling the hero to focus on the big missions in the local province. On top of a cliff, the main character and a coworker wear dark hats, focused on checking out a gang in that region. Glancing at his partner, the young combatant confidently reflects that he could handle all of that by himself. Remembering his recent past, the boy recalls his beloved tutor announcing that his first mission had been assigned. Accompanied by a light-haired guy, the master introduced the new veteran in charge of helping the recruit on the expedition. Being quite formal, the inexperienced fighter put his hands together in front of his body, saying it was a huge pleasure to meet him there. Returning to the present on the cliff, the hero notices a small flask on his colleague's waist, asking about that item. Suspicious, the blue-clad boy asks curiously if his mission partner was carrying strong alcohol. Laughing calmly, the veteran admits to carrying booze and guarantees he would only drink when it was really time to fight. Expressing concern, the boy claims to feel more tense, while the partner calls him down to gather a bunch of rumors. The scene cuts quickly to a wooden dock where henchmen order a guy to be pulled from the very murky water. Gripping the rope tight, a lackey's strong arms pull up the heavy object straight from the rough sea. Trapped inside a hanging cage, a poor man coughs up water violently, coming up to the surface in a painful, suffocating way. Staring at the victim from the top of the bridge, a red-clad villain cruelly asks if the poor hostage would confess something. Flashing an evil smile, the dangerous enemy demands the debt payment, asking for his money or the civilian's daughter. Crying heavily, the older man begs for more time while clutching the bars, stressing that he would never hand over his beloved daughter. Changing his expression to deadly rage, the criminal loses his patience, ordering his goons to lock the victim in the water. Begging for mercy, the poor guy drops into the dark sea, suffering harsh and ruthless treatment from the criminal gang. However, an authoritative voice tells them to stop, revealing the brave main character standing in front of the cowardly villains. Turning his head back, the evil leader glares at the meddling young man, bluntly questioning the rookie's identity. Looking at our hero's clothes, the bandit quickly figures out that this warrior belonged to the famous Sky Society. Closing his eye in fury, the criminal leader looks closely at the extremely serious and very confident look of that young man. Finding the whole situation ridiculous, the villain mockingly asks if that low-level boy was giving him orders. Laughing out loud, the criminal leader calls the young warrior crazy as a strong blue electric energy appears in the area. Prepping his third combat form, the prodigy intensely focuses his powers, making bright sparks. In the blink of an eye, the young man unleashes a very fast slash, taking down the big guy and all his henchmen in the same instant. Glaring at his fallen rivals, the hatted boy coldly judges how this sect's dirty methods never change with time. Soon after, his light-haired partner helps the wet hostage out of the cage in the middle of that huge foggy dock. Shivering hard from the cold, the hurt civilian tries to say thanks for the help, hearing the veteran ask if he was okay there. Bleeding on the wooden floor, the criminal leader grits his teeth, holding back his massive fury after taking the heavy hit. Crying in relief, the civilian drops to his knees in front of the young heroes, thanking them intensely for sparing his life. Holding his drinking flask tight, the veteran warrior checks the situation, understanding everyone's shock in the scene. Watching his colleague, the older guy mentally praises the calm and highly precise moves of his incredible partner. Flashing a slight smile, the experienced warrior guesses that the ally calculated the power levels perfectly there. But before he could finish his thought, a surviving henchman charges madly from behind the strong veteran. Avoiding the danger, our hero throws a fast strike at the villain before the veteran even has to move his own body. Putting away his beautiful blade, the rookie ends the whole fight, making the senior realize he'd have a lot to report. With that, the scenery changes, showing a gorgeous blue sky full of clouds, hinting at a long passage of time in the area. Far away from there, a very bored sentry holds his spear and yawns while guarding the entrance to a fancy, large base. Suddenly, the guard snaps out of his boredom, widening his eyes in shock as he notices mysterious footsteps getting closer. Revealing his strong presence, our hero pulls his sword from the sheath, releasing an intense electric energy across the blade. In a crushing move, the Wonder Boy throws a fast electric slash, annihilating the two guards in a single instant. Entering the enemy grounds, the young man looks at the entire large complex hidden under thick, very gloomy fog. Inside the main building, the enemy boss drinks surrounded by women, laughing with his cronies about their cruel extortions. Smiling with pure evil, the muscular man says selling the kidnapped civilians would make a ton of money for the whole base. Interrupting that evil party, the hall doors fly into the air, knocking down some henchmen with the tremendous force used. Walking through the smoke, the young champion appears furiously, accusing the cruel enemies of stealing from innocent people. Completely shocked by the boldness, the bandit leader stands up from the table right away, demanding to know the intruder's name. Holding the sword near his face, our hero scares the rivals who recognize the legendary clothes of the Sky Society. Driven by despair, the coward orders his allies to rush forward, claiming the feared intruder was totally alone. Showing zero weakness, the fighter twirls his weapon's handle with great skill, gathering blue sparks across the room. Raising his long blade in the air, the boy casts a huge magic aura, preparing his most powerful final attack. Unleashing the violent and massive frontal strike, all the dangerous energy hits the ground, completely shattering their hull. Laughing loud, the criminal leader insults the young warrior, calling him crazy while blue bolts cover the whole large room. Trying to defend against that fast hit, the big guy crosses his arms, using dark energy as a strong shield. Because of the energy created by the blast, one of the lackeys flies hard into the large trees of that place. Staring at the massive destruction in the hall, the champion lowers his blade as multiple weapons drop all around him. Smirking, the brave boy quietly murmurs that the enemy's stance was very sloppy. Giving no time to rest, the survivors attack together, forcing the hero to dodge countless back-to-back slashes. With a simple defensive move, the powerful recruit knocks all the weak enemies away from that floor at once. Overcome with blind fury, three dangerous henchmen rush in fast, calling the boy too arrogant. Quickly, our main character slides across the wooden floor, escaping the rivals with scary agility. Seeing the boy's speed, the villain widens his eyes in shock, noticing a strike heading his way. Leaping gracefully into the air, the champion brings his own blade down hard against the group of criminals there. Right after the jump, the warrior lands easily, planting his feet on the crossed weapons of the dangerous bandits. Spinning his own body in an amazing way, the talented fighter launches the enemy's gear into the air. Screaming in pain, one of the lackeys drops to the floor, crying because of his battered hands right after the recruit landed. After taking down the whole group, the young man keeps a calm posture as the fallen henchmen call him a monster. Completely terrified by the boy's crushing strength, the other partners order everyone to back off a lot. At that moment, a robust older leader steps up, claiming he would handle that quite cheeky intruder himself. In another part of the big base, wood pieces fly into the air, revealing more criminals being knocked out with no mercy. Showing good teamwork, the experienced veteran delivers heavy attacks against the henchmen at that base. Stomping hard on the dirty floor, the senior finishes off the guards, watching the cells full of very innocent people. Amazed by the rescue, the families cry in relief, hearing their savior laugh about the rookie giving him orders. Hours earlier, the hero praised his partner's tracking talent, knowing how incredibly useful those techniques were. At that moment, the recruit asked to be the main bait, while the veteran would go searching for all the victims. With a lot of kindness and courage, the young fighter stated firmly that the civilians' lives were his top priority. Thinking about the boy's fast entry, the hatted gentleman admits he was worried about his partner's nature there. Looking at the fallen enemies, the wise ally realizes the rookie possessed great skills and pure virtues. Smiling gently, the light-haired champion comforts the prisoners, saying they were safe now. Very politely, the experienced warrior invites the rescued families outside to catch some good fresh air. Already in the main courtyard, two lackeys widen their eyes in terror upon seeing their old boss's terrible situation. Pushed violently backward, the criminal leader struggles to manage defending the prodigy's multiple strikes. Completely stunned by the hit, the enemy leader sweats cold, wondering how a mere child possessed so much magic energy there. Staring at the boy, the villain sees a huge dark creature, assuming the fighter trained for decades to get that aura. Falling into despair, the bandit threatens to hurt all the civilian hostages if the recruit didn't surrender very quietly. Hearing the man's empty threat, the talented swordsman smiles confidently, showing absolutely no sign of worry. With his weapon in hand, the champion announces his partner already rescued all the innocents, shattering the criminal's hope. Realizing his massive disadvantage, the villain boss sweats cold, asking the hero to wait a bit and listen to his offer. Ignoring the rival's dirty words, our main character leaps into the air, prepping a powerful charge coming from above. Coming down hard, the boy hits the opponent with a tremendous slash, smashing the floor and doing brutal damage to the older man. Taking the terrible frontal impact, the old leader pulls back sharply while trying to bear the sharp blade's pain. Sliding across the broken floor, the man curses the brave boy, feeling the strong pressure push his own skinny body away. Analyzing the scene, the young man focuses his deadly gaze from under his hat, noticing the rival wouldn't have time to draw his weapon. Trying to hit back, the bandit moves his right hand to his own gear's handle, being too slow to react in time. Giving no openings, the brave boy gathers a huge, vibrant blue electric force in his two hands. Right after, a gigantic magic explosion takes over the area, shooting strong flames and lightning all across the room's floor. Resisting the impact tensely, the criminal gets scared by the young man's ability to block his dual palms. Focused on the new threat, the talented swordsman shoots a cold, accurate glare, judging his opponent's next moves. Fixing his own stance, the wise old man stares at the champion boy and demands to know that strong kid's identity. Looking very closely, the cruel man analyzes the symbols on the hero's clothes, noting the dangerous fighter's low rank. Clicking his tongue in pure rage, the leader states that this invasion completely ruined his retirement business. Thrown on the ground, the criminal complains he set up a great deal for the former boss, but the fool ended up dying for nothing. Quite confused, the recruit ponders the fake lone group, realizing there was someone bigger behind it all. Holding his battle-worn sword tightly, the young hero points at the old man, demanding answers immediately. Keeping a very calm aura, the brave warrior warns he would like to hear more details about these mysterious deals. Taking his combat stance, the champion tells his rival to postpone his retirement until after their big talk. Overcome by huge fury, the older man charges using intense dark fire, calling the boy a very arrogant, talkative kid. Running at top speed, the dangerous enemy kicks up a lot of dust from the ground, wanting to hit the heavenly champion head on. Calmly, our main character creates an electric flame in his hand, admitting the thunder palm technique was quite useful. Clashing their hands hard, the two fighters create a booming, bright, and dangerous shockwave all across the big courtyard. With the tremendous energy of the impact, the rivals slide backward, moving away fast as dust rises through the space. Staring at his own fingers, the old man scrunches his face upon seeing his hands burned and shaking from the powerful lightning. Noticing the smoke, the villain flashes an evil smile, realizing the young man cultivated the rare yang energy into flames. Charging in hard, the white-bearded old man summons fire claws, trying to steal all of the champion's power. Caught by surprise, the hero widens his eyes, seeing a gigantic glowing hand coming his way out of nowhere. Crashing into the target, the brutal attack crushes the wooden floor, sending debris flying everywhere. Staring at the impact from under his hat, the recruit stays calm and quickly figures out the enemy's trick. Showing his speed, the brave boy grabs the dangerous opponent's red sleeve with a lot of force. Without hesitating, the prodigy throws a powerful explosive punch right in the middle of that white-haired older man's chest. Consumed by the intense flames, the criminal leader widens his eyes, realizing his instincts hadn't lied. Forced to retreat, the hurt villain slides back, staring at the young fighter who kept his firm stance. Laughing crazily, the man summons a thick black smoke, showing he was using the great art of heavenly absorption there. Hearing the report, the boy taunts the bandit, asking if his magic was weak for using a pretty disgusting method. Overcome with fury, the wicked older man grinds his teeth, accusing the cheeky boy of daring to insult his honor like that. Charging like a madman, the boss throws several fast blade attacks, yelling that he wanted the rookie's power. Blinded by greed, the bandit wishes to steal all that strong, burning, powerful energy from the young man for himself. Believing he could reach peak strength in an instant, the enemy tries to cut the boy with no mercy. Dodging the dangerous flames, the agile champion takes a huge jump backward, gaining distance from that dirty attack. Landing on the roof, the hero asks if the villain joined the cruel gang, just to get those bad spells. Jumping after his target, the old man mockingly agrees, claiming he had zero reason to hide that. Keeping his crazy expression, the coward promises he would devour and steal every drop of the boy's deep energy. Having his doubts cleared up, our main character strikes the air, shooting electric flames and surprising his rival. Colliding with the attack, the bandit screams in absolute pain, feeling the bones in his own hand completely shatter. Seizing the huge opening, the dark-haired fighter throws a beautiful front kick, tossing the old geezer's body. With the tremendous weight of the blow, the criminal's body falls like a meteor, breaking the huge clay roof tiles on the way down. During the violent fall, the guy coughs heavily, feeling his entire body give out. Hitting the solid ground, the bandit opens a huge crater, kicking up a giant cloud of debris across the yard. Completely immobilized on the floor, the defeated old man murmurs weakly, begging desperately for his own life. Ignoring the fake apology, the young champion puts an end to the villain's attack with a brutal spike of blue lightning. After the blinding flash fades, the dangerous opponent's battered hand drops limply on the rocks, totally lifeless. Staring at the defeated foe, the champion spots a strange object falling from that coward's clothes and steps closer. Picking up the mysterious little book, the recruit hears his partner's voice, who is running up to him asking what happened. Soon after, the white-haired partner reaches the spot, noticing the huge mess, and asks if the fight was already over. Looking at the fallen man, the rookie recognizes him as trash from the evil factions linked to the Sun and Moon demonic cult. Hearing this, the champion listens as his colleague lists that he defeated both the gang leader and this dangerous old man. Impressed by such power, the light-haired boy wonders how a simple recruit got so much credit on the mission. At that moment, the dark-clad fighter hands over the small mysterious book, stating he found it on the bandit. Flipping through the old paper pages, the coworker checks the object, suspecting it was some sort of very important record. Interrupted by a slight tug on his clothes, the hero turns his attention to a small hand touching him suddenly. Looking at the tearful little boy, the warrior hears the child say he lost his sister and tries to calm him down in a friendly way. At that moment, a woman reports that the criminals took several kids from the cells before the great hero arrived there. Gripping the fabric of his clothes tightly, the resident begs with deep sadness for the lives of those kidnapped youngsters. With his face bathed in tears, the small boy pleads for help to find his lost family member amid the chaos. Knowing the severe situation, the duo outside confirms the book records the kids' sale and decides to track the targets. Stopping the action, the silver-haired guy warns that the rookie's mission ends there and tells him to fall back while he looks for more backup. Completely confused by that sudden order, the dark-haired swordsman questions the real meaning of those words. Explaining the reason, the partner reveals he got direct orders from their superiors to keep the rookie out of these dangerous cases. Turning his face in pure frustration, the champion hears his companion ask him again to return to the military base. Clenching his fists in sheer outrage, the young warrior bowls with anger thinking about this feared criminal demonic cult. Walking under the bright light, the fighter gets furious noticing that his superiors try to hold him back until the very last second. Walking right past his partner, the hero ignores the extreme danger warning for a simple recruit and keeps moving forward. Keeping an extremely serious face under his straw hat, the young man murmurs a few words in a challenging tone. Stopping his walk abruptly, the talented warrior claims he isn't an ordinary guy, right before being called by the colleague behind him. Completely changing his attitude, the veteran shoots a harsh look and demands immediate retreat, stating it was not a mere suggestion. Taking firm steps again, the champion reflects on abandoning victims just because of rules or tough situations. Glaring at his companion with fiery eyes, the hero asks how he can back down now, denying that this is true justice. Faced with such determination, the mood around them gets heavy and tense, marking the black-clad young swordsman's stubborn stance. Showing a look as sharp as a razor, the main character makes it clear he will never back down while innocent people need help. Yielding to the heavy pressure, the veteran agrees they will act together, and the rookie asks if they can still track the targets in time. Flashing a beautiful confident smile, the silver-haired guy points to his own chest, guaranteeing his sword always finds its target. Wasting no more seconds, the fast duo runs toward the lit, dense forest following the real criminal's trail. Pushing their pace to the max, the two vanish into the woods, leaving only dust trails and fast blurs along the way. Landing with extreme skill, the light-haired veteran touches the ground softly during the intense chase. Pointing out the right direction, the experienced tracker shows the correct path while rushing through the thick woods. Keeping his eyes peeled on the tracks, the partner asks the rookie to watch the footprints stamped in the damp dirt. Analyzing the marks on the ground, the fighter confirms they are the dangerous sex steps and warns they'll catch the target soon. Impressed by such accuracy, the young swordsman realizes his companion's search skills are incredible. Running at high speed, the talented warrior notices that the superior doesn't miss a single detail, no matter how small. Drawing breath with some difficulty, the recruit assumes that Master inherited true teachings from a great legend. Watching the silver-haired guy's long jumps, the boy finally understands the reason behind that request for him to go back to the base. Stepping firmly on the grass, the champion thinks about his heavy daily training since joining the heroic society. Sweating a lot from the physical effort, the young man admits to having low stamina and can barely keep up with the duo's pace. Stopping at the edge of a ravine, the hunter announces they finally found the kidnappers after all that running. Looking at the wooden wagons on the road, the duo's leader deduces the bandits' plan to escape using a boat. Touching his own weapon's handle, the rookie suggests attacking fast before the enemies reach the safe, big river. Agreeing with his companion, the experienced warrior highlights the urgency to act now so they don't miss their final chance. Noticing his ally's generosity, the young man realizes his colleague was holding back his own pace just to help him out there. Still panting quite a bit, the black-clad swordsman asks the superior to buy a little time while he catches his breath. Holding the brim of his hat firmly, the silver-haired guy accepts the mission and advises the boy to save his energy for combat. Wasting no more seconds, the professional tracker jumps from the branch, vanishing from sight with a strong wind blast. Left completely alone, the hero hides his face and promises to master a powerful body protection technique soon. Far away, the scene shifts to the group of kidnappers guiding the victims and complaining a lot about the tiring trip. Watching from the treetops, the target hunter analyzes the situation, spotting about 10 men protecting the wagons. Pulling out several sharp blades between his fingers, the warrior gets ready to hold off the enemies until the boy arrives. Kicking off the surprise attack, one of the dangerous evil guards takes a direct hit, falling without being able to react in time. Seeing their companion taken down easily, the other bandits draw their swords, yelling for max protection in the area. Taking advantage of the enemy panic, the silver-haired guy unleashes a true shower of metal darts against the criminal group. Taking a direct hit, another henchman is severely wounded while the rest block the projectiles with their bare blades. Sweating cold from pure nervousness, the enemy swordsman wonders why that mysterious shooter wouldn't get closer. Flashing a very diabolical smile, the wrongdoor's leader seems to solve the riddle, coming up with a plan right away. Pointing his weapon forward, the boss orders that the main priority is escaping with the hostages, using full force on defense. Noticing the quick strategy change, the tracker gets frustrated as the henchmen run away before his ally can arrive. Realizing he has no other choice, the tracker slightly draws his sword, prepping a frontal attack against the wagons. Slicing the air like a lightning bolt, the experienced warrior charges fast in a deadly leap toward the enemies below him. With a sudden drop of one of the horses, the huge wooden carriage tips over violently, kicking up a lot of dust on the road. Looking through the cracks in the broken wood, the hero hears a shaky voice begging desperately for salvation. Inside the transport, the swordsman spots several tied-up kids crying heavily while asking the older guy for help. Completely shocked by the cruel discovery, the veteran grinds his teeth in fury as he realizes the hostages were very young. But before he could free them, the carriage roof explodes suddenly as a bandit jumps out, yelling in a hostile way. Dropping like a meteor, the dark-clad attacker attempts a crushing stomp while the champion ducks to dodge. Scraping right past his straw hat, the evil cultist spin-and kick cuts the air, showing off incredible brute force. Sliding violently across the dirt, the tracker uses his blade to break the impact, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. Sweating cold from the power of that strike, the hunter admits he would have met his end right then if he hadn't dodged in time. Landing firmly and lightly on the ground, the dangerous wrongdoer walks slowly toward the experienced warrior. Showing a highly arrogant smile, the criminal mocks the opponent's defensive posture, claiming he is shaking with terror. Completely ignoring the cheap taunt, the silver-haired guy pulls out a flask and takes a good gulp of booze, questioning this supposed fear. Getting totally confused by the attitude, the kidnapper's boss gets annoyed seeing his rival drink in the middle of a fight. Facing the villain very calmly, the veteran guarantees he only feels terror from a single person, and it wouldn't be that guy. Taken over by sudden rage, the evil cultist charges in a deadly dash, while the champion simply blocks the impact. Stepping back a bit, the attacker's face shifts to deep shock as he notices his rival's movement suddenly changed. Showing an extremely cold glare from under his hat, the hunter takes on an even more threatening combat stance. At that exact instant, the two forces clash, creating a massive explosion of glowing energy that pushes everything around them away. Echoing through the dense forest, the loud impact noises confirm the start of an incredibly fast and violent battle. Attacking non-stop, the bandit launches an insane sequence of acrobatic kicks while the hero focuses purely on defending. Planting his feet on the dirt floor, the criminal gains more momentum to keep up his relentless barrage of heavy strikes. Enduring the heavy flood of attacks, the silver-haired guy uses his own sword's sheath to block the destructive impacts. Cranking up the aggression even more, the wrongdoer jumps and lands a crushing kick right on the veteran rival's tight guard. Being dragged backward by pure pressure, the hero thinks about the huge enemy strength, suspecting that man's rank. According to old military reports, members of this obscure sect always master unique skills from dark essences. Such knowledge confirms that only dangerous, brilliant officers manage to raise these arts to a master level. Turning the clash into pure fast blurs, the two fighters vanish through the scenery, leaving only attack trails behind. Annoyed by the champion's good dodging, the evil criminal insults his enemy, calling him a cowardly rat while launching a flying kick. Assessing the situation, the villain concludes that fighting a brilliant officer requires at least the strength of a 3-cloud rank. Being pushed backward, the experienced warrior considers it way too dangerous to let this monster cross the recruit's path. Thanks to the heavy defense, the dark-clad attacker loses his balance a bit and stumbles with his arms wide open right there. Seizing this great opening, the fighter raises his sword with determination, believing it to be the perfect chance to strike. Bringing the blade down with all his remaining strength, the veteran has his hit completely blocked by the bandit's stiff arm. Clenching his teeth in total frustration, the hunter realizes the huge problem, internally regretting that solid block. Smiling in a highly wicked way, the cultist says it was a shame and pulls back his own fist, preparing a devastating hit. Striking the opponent's chest with absurd violence, the criminal realizes the rival's offensive stance was just a fake out. Taking the hit head-on, the experienced combatant feels the entire crushing impact smash through his defenses and his own body. Tossed far away like a ragdoll, the light-haired warrior groans in pain as he flies out of control across the landscape. With his eyes wide in agony, the silver-haired guy notices his disadvantage, knowing his internal energy is lower than that monster's. Crashing violently into the dirt ground, the hero's body drags from the absurd force, kicking up heavy dry dust. Coughing heavily, the wounded guy hears the kids crying desperately, begging for their savior not to fall right there. Swallowing his pride, the warrior staggers to his feet and taunts his opponent, mocking if that was all of his huge power. Cracking his neck in anger, the evil leader insults the heroic society, guaranteeing he won't let his opponent perish in peace. Gripping his sword's handle tightly once more, the veteran wonders if there's no safe place left for them to run away to. Before the final clash happens, a very fast and sudden movement catches the attacker's attention behind his own back. Watching the quick approach, the sect leader makes an expression of huge surprise as he notices something falling his way. Touching the rocky ground softly, boots reveal the arrival of a mysterious person at that tense location. Right in front of the criminal boss, the completely knocked out body of one of his henchmen is thrown roughly onto the road. Completely stunned by the unexpected scene, the villain scowls, questioning the real meaning of that massive insult. To everyone's deep surprise, the skilled dark-haired warrior arrives on the scene, calling out for his hurt companion. Showing a calm and confident aura, the young hero politely asks if he could step into that risky situation. Closing his eyes, the silver-haired fighter admits to feeling great relief instead of worrying about the boy showing up. Flashing a smile of pure hope, the veteran announces he is counting on the boy's help, highlighting that he is not a simple rookie. Watching the new threat from afar, the feared sect's commander sarcastically asks if the kid showed up as actual backup. Staring firmly at his opponent's young face, the cultist thinks to himself that the recruit must not even be 20 years old. However, a strong spiritual aura begins to wrap around the recruit, creating an incredibly intense power that scares the Dark Master. Faced with that grand, crushing presence, the criminal blinks, sweating cold, and wonders if he was wrong about the boy's power. Shaking off his own scare, the attacker laughs loud, claiming the help of a mere brat was totally useless. Thinking it was all a big bluff, the evil villain dashes fast through the forest, trying to catch the boy off guard. Jumping very high, the criminal throws a destructive top-down kick, insulting the rookie as a mere weak brat. Catching the strong hit with just one arm, the young warrior admits he has a terrible physical strength disadvantage there. Drawing his sharp glowing blade, the swordsman reflects that early training serves to move pure air through one's own body. Boosting the blue glow on the weapon, the boy understands that true masters push the powerful magic right out of their skin. Keeping his beautiful, calm, and focused look, the talented champion notes that the famous glowing technique greatly increases pure stamina. Being pushed back hard, the Dark Leader retreats in fear, regretting seeing such deadly power in an enemy of such a low rank. Losing his balance during the fall, the wicked man insults the heroic fighter, demanding to know the limits of the boy's skills. Charging in the brief moment, the light boot strikes the soft earth firmly, shooting wonderful celestial sparks in the huge woods. Noticing the intense show of cold colors, the wrinkled boss turns his face away, stunned, muttering vague sounds of pure perplexity. Leaving the henchman's sight behind, the quick recruit launches his body, running fast like a lightning bolt cutting through the damp air. Narrowing his eyes with absolute firmness, the defender reasons that heavy punches or handling daggers are all one art. Making flawless acrobatic moves, the savior of the oppressed throws a series of decisive strikes, forcing the leader to back off. Trying to land any scratch, the diabolical guy stretches his legs into a curved kick, running right into the defender's firm guard. Gaining a massive advantage, the boy pushes the bandit away with the pure pressure of the sword, drawing angry insults from this grumpy old man. Pressing his body to the dirt, the prodigy's shiny tool sweeps the low ground, completely shattering the peace of the woods. Giving in to the fury held in his rotten soul, the cowardly man coats his big fist in a black aura, cursing the boy's life. Feeling extreme inner peace, the brave young man gains immense confidence, mentally noting his talent with the sword. Surpassing spatial limits, the boy tears through the atmosphere, dropping without mercy on the henchman and shattering the bad barrier into lightning. Creating light across the entire area, a glowing trail covers the fearful paralysis of this fake executive in the empty forest. Reaping the disaster of his selfish recklessness, the broken fighter collapses in complete defeat, regretting the massive gap between their classes. Resolving all this trouble with enviable mastery, the paladin sheathes his sword, completely ignoring the bandit's final defeat.